All right, we're good to go.
Yep, I'm ready.
Hi, nice to meet you again.
Hi.
I guess just give us your little spiel, your little elevator pitch about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Carolyn Knapp. You can call me Caro. Most people do. I am a multimedia and live action director from California. I grew up in San Diego. I'm based in Los Angeles, but I am currently in New York. So I'm kind of all over the place. I guess I would describe my work like that as well. I really love doing lots of different things and doing a different thing every day. So I learned how to animate in quarantine. I've been doing a lot of that. I have a background in physical and still art. So I do a lot of like album cover design and things like that as well. But really, what I love is being on set and collaborating with other people. Um, so live action directing, sorry, is really what has my heart.
That's so cool. So are you self-taught in all like the programs that you use for animation or
Yeah, I am mainly taught by my little brother, actually. He is 17 and he is a CGI genius. He picked it up way before I did. And then I went home at the beginning of quarantine because I'm on Universal Music Group's internal content team, 1824. Um, and because we work hourly for them and we're kind of contracted employees, they were like, well, if you can find a way to keep making content, visual content for musicians from home, then you can keep working. And so I kind of took my background in visual art, still art, and my background in film editing, and I kind of brought that all together with my brother's help to learn animation. Um, but yeah, I pretty much primarily use Adobe After Effects
Mhm.
for animation, but there are lots of different programs that I kind of mess around with from time to time. But I'm not like super advanced in any rendering like my brother is.
That's so cool that like he's 17 and taught you how to do all these programs. I can't even do any
Yes.
of that and I'm like 22.
I feel the same way. He's always been the
So
smart one.
you don't go to film school, right?
I do actually.
Okay.
I go to film school at USC, University of Southern California in Los Angeles. But I'm not in the film production major because I have found that major to be I guess a bit more strict and restrictive. I also didn't originally get into it, so that's the main reason. But I'm glad that I didn't in the end of it because my major is a lot more general. So I get I would say a more like well-rounded film education that I can then apply to the different things I'm doing as I like. And um, yeah, it's allowed me a lot of flexibility and freedom as far as my schedule as well. So it's allowed me, because my major's a lot more flexible, to be working, which is really great because that's, I would say, most of my learning happens while creating actual work. But film school definitely helps, especially with connections. I've met a lot of people and amazing collaborators through film school.
I feel that. I also feel that you also mentioned in your TikTok, you said you do like a lot of
Hmm.
cold emails. Can you just go over
Yes.
like what a cold email is for people that don't know?
Yes, yeah. So a cold email or a cold DM is essentially when you reach out to somebody who you are a fan of, and you let them know that you would be interested in working with them. And I think that it, these are really hard because there's definitely a nuanced balance between being like a fanatic and kind of stressing somebody out and being like, oh, I want to work with you, like when they don't have any work to give you, um, versus if you express kind of your interest in their work and how maybe you're inspired by their work,
Hmm.
and then you express what your specific skills are and how you think those might be able to benefit them in some way. Those typically, in my experience, tend to be more helpful because you never know when someone is looking for you exactly. It's like I've had times before when I'm really looking for like a specific editor for a project and I don't know who to pick, or even like on set, I'm always looking for like gaffers, lighting people and things like that, more technical roles. And so then when somebody reaches out to me and they're, more of like, I really am a fan of your work. These are my qualifications. This is my past history in my work. And then if I have a position for that person, then I'll be way more likely to, use them than anybody else. And in my experience, I've gotten a lot of really, really great work through doing that. But it's hard because it really is a fine line between, being bothersome and being like stressing out someone more. I guess that's where I would draw the line, is if you feel like, because everybody's so busy, working in these
Hmm.
industries. So if you feel like whatever your contact is going to make their lives more difficult, then they probably won't reply. If it's going to make their lives easier, then they probably will. And obviously, it's hard to guess that because you don't know exactly what projects they have going on. But I would say, when in doubt, shoot your shot. I know that I've now kind of gone in circles with that, but it really does help a lot in my experience. I've gotten so much work through that.
So do you have any advice for anybody that wants to start cold emailing slash DMing and to just kind of avoid being like a fangirl instead of,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
like here, honestly, I will pull up. Let's see. I'm literally gonna look at, because one of the production companies that I work with in LA, I
Mhm.
actually started working with them because I cold DM them. So I said, hello, I wanted to reach out and let you know that I'm a huge fan of all the work you produce. I'm a 20-year-old filmmaker in LA, working mainly in directing and animation spaces. In the past year, I've created videos for, and I name dropped people who I've worked for, but um, and animations for billboards. I have found myself so stylistically inspired by each of your recent productions and the crew you work with. I wanted to put myself out there if you ever need an experienced PA, AD, animator, production designer, or member of the art department. I live near downtown LA and would absolutely love to work in one of your productions in any capacity. So I DM'd that to this production company that I had been following for a while. So I think where we start with that is that I did my research. I was following them for a while and I knew the kind of productions they were working on. I knew kind of from my research who they were working with and what kind of people were fulfilling each of those roles on their set and what those people's past work experience was. So I tried to find places that I would like to work for, but that I also thought they would like me to work for them. Because if you can find somewhere where they're just as happy to bring you on as you are to be working with them, that's going to be the ideal situation. Um, it's really like a win-win situation if you can do that. So research is my first main advice. And then I would say not assuming anything. So I didn't say anything along the lines of like, I I'm trying to think. I don't know if like saying what not to do is great, but like just like overstepping your boundaries, I guess. Like I would never say something like, um, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do. I would never say it. I would say along the lines of like, I would like to put myself out there if you were ever in need. Like that's something I said, or um, I wanted to reach out and let you know I'm a fan. Um, I said how specifically I was inspired by their productions. But yeah, the main thing is just that I said I wanted to put myself out there in case you were ever in need of, and then I listed the things that I could do. That's very different than saying something like maybe, um, I'm wondering if you are looking for an intern, or I'm wondering if you're looking for, because that's like very much, it's such a fine line, but it's like inserting yourself and assuming that they need
Mhm.
you is maybe overstepping, whereas just being honest and being very open with just like offering up your skills, I think is where the line is drawn. And again, I don't know. I mean, like I've gotten a lot of work through this, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Some people do feel differently about this. Some people feel like cold calling at all is, rude or needy. But I have gotten a lot of work through it. And I think that for up and coming, anyone, it can be really, really beneficial, as long as you are honest and just like kind and not assuming anything,
Hmm.
because it's once you get into that space of like it, it's like once you get into the ego space, it's like you shouldn't have any ego going into it. You shouldn't be like, I think that you want me. Like it's more like an offer.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's weird for me to explain all this in such detail because I feel like I'm just, kind of spouting bullshit at this point, but
Not
it
really. I
does
feel
really
like you're
work.
doing it well.
Yeah. So they replied to me when I sent that. They said, "Hey, thanks for the kind words and reaching out. What do you consider your strengths? I can see you do a lot of things." So then I told them what I think my strengths were, and they ended up giving me their email and saying that they would keep me in mind. And it was actually the next week that they reached out, and I was able to PA on one of their productions. And I've done a lot of work with them since. So it definitely can have a big impact, as long as, you're not being overly needy, I guess, is where I would say the line is drawn.
Got it. So the key is just don't be desperate. Like definitely
Yes.
sell yourself, but don't be like super desperate for a job. Hi guys, we're just gonna take a quick break from the episode, and I just wanted to thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. If you are not currently subscribed to it, please do that now so you can stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, I am a one-man band. I want to just kind of remind you guys of that I do all these episodes on my own. I reach out to the guest, I create the episode content. I also record on my own and edit. So if you guys want to continue to support me and this podcast, please feel free to donate. All links to how you can donate will be below. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, because it's very much more of an offer than um looking for a job. I would say, yeah, never go into a cold email expecting to get a job out of it. But it's more of like a connection. You're making a connection. You're introducing yourself. That's how I would say it.
That's actually a
That's a
really
good
good
way to
way to
put it,
put
I
it.
think. You're
I agree.
introducing yourself to somebody who you are a fan of, who you would love to work with, but you're not asking for a job,
Hmm.
because asking for a job could stress them out even more. It's putting more work on their plate. Whereas introducing yourself might be taking work off their plate if you're good
Hmm.
for an opportunity that they already have.
I think that's a good way to put it. So can you talk about some of the jobs that you've gotten from like cold emailing, DMing? Because I know you do animation. You've done some stuff for Olivia Rodrigo, I believe, Fergie.
Yes.
Can you
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit?
So those ones, Olivia Rodrigo and Fergie, a lot of the other big people I've worked with are all through my position at Universal Music Group that I was
Mhm.
mentioning before. So that job I actually got through one of my best friends who works with them. And that is what I would say is the other avenue. Like every job I've gotten either comes from a friend, like a close friend, or somebody that I've worked with in the past
Mhm.
who I've either asked for a recommendation from or has given me a recommendation without me asking. Um, or it's a cold email or DM. Either I'm cold emailing or DMing somebody else, or they're cold emailing or DMing me. So those are all I think that pretty much every job that I've gotten can be traced back to one of those things. So like, yeah, with Olivia Rodrigo and Fergie, that's all through UMG. So that was my one of my best friends, Graham Byers. He's a very talented cinematographer. Um, he was working, he still works for them, but he was working with them in 2019 as a concert videographer. And I had just finished up an internship somewhere else. I was looking for my next job, and I went out to telling me about his role at UMG, and I expressed interest. I was like, that sounds really cool. I would totally love to be working on set more, doing something, like it sounds like you're doing with them. And so he, because of that dinner, put in a recommendation for me, and I was interviewed for the job, and then I got it. And it's through that job that I've gotten a lot of these bigger musicians that I've been able to build up my portfolio through.
Really good friend.
Yes, definitely a really good friend. But I would also say like yes, he was a really good friend to give me a recommendation,
Hmm.
but they didn't hire me necessarily because he recommended me. Like they hired
True.
me because of the portfolio I had, and they did trust him. It did help a lot.
Hmm.
And keep your talented friends close. Like that is a big piece of advice that I would have, because even if it's not like a position, like that job is an employed, like I'm an employee for Universal. Like that is a position, a job. It's not just like a one gig kind of deal.
Hmm.
But I also have found some amazing one gig kind of deals through friends as well. And you never know; those one gig deals can often turn into a lot more if they like you. So yeah, keep your talented friends close. As far as, sorry, I definitely strayed from the original
No, you're fine.
question. We were talking about, you wanted to know about specific jobs that I've gotten through cold DMing.
Hmm.
Okay, so trying to think. Um, Literally looking through my portfolio. Well, okay, so a great one is that Eliza McLam. I don't know if you know who that is, but I directed a music video for her in February that came out in March
Hmm.
for her song Pontiac. And she cold DM'd me. So she found me on TikTok through one of my posts that was like, I direct, here are the things I do. And she DM'd me. I'm really gonna read you these DMs because it does mean a lot.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
yeah, of course. And Eliza and I actually are great friends now. We've hung out a lot in LA since then, which I think is the other best way to do it. If you're not getting jobs from your original friends, then make friends with the people you're getting jobs
Got
with.
it.
But so she DM'd me in January on Instagram and said, "Hi, I just saw your video on TikTok and I love your stuff. Where are you based?" So I said, "I'm based in LA. If you're ever in Southern California, I'd love to shoot together. And if not, I'm available for lyric/animated video commissions remotely." And she said, "Amazing. I'm in LA too. I've had a few directors pitch me music video ideas, but none of them ever really stuck. Plus, they were all men. But I saw your reel on TikTok and I fell in love with your style. Would love to talk to you about a video at some point." So, from just those DMs, we ended up creating a music video. And I did a Spotify canvas for her recently. Like, we definitely will be staying in contact in the future and working together again and again. I hope. She's really talented and amazing, and I love working with her. And so I think that's a great example of where just reaching out to someone could start something really amazing. Um, yeah. So I know that wasn't me reaching out to somebody, but there have been things like that before as well.
That's still really cool though.
Yeah. Definitely would recommend. I guess the best example, honestly, of me getting something from cold DMing someone is the production company I was telling you about that I work
Hmm.
with, that I shared the DM from, because that they brought me on as a PA, and then I've worked on, I think, not even just with their production company, but through the connections I made with them, at least 3 or 4 different sets since then.
That's
So
awesome because that's
yeah,
steady income for you while you're also still in school. So
yeah,
that's got to be
exactly.
great.
And oh man, I just love being on set, like any opportunity I can get, and especially learning from other people. Like I never see PAing on a music video, especially if it's like a bigger music video,
Hmm.
or any production, as like, oh, I'm just a PA. Like I love it. I live for it. I'm like, oh man, like I get to learn so much. I'm getting the opportunity to not only get paid to be on set, but also to witness these really amazing, experienced and talented directors with a huge budget, make something magical. And I get to see how their set operates, because any set that I'm on, I'm learning so much. And I think that, you know, like obviously I love directing, but any role that I have, I'm always learning something new, and I can always take that into any future productions that I do. So
I agree with
definitely would
that.
recommend.
So you're kind of a jack of all trades.
Yes.
Is there anything in particular that you like doing more than anything else? So, like I know you directed music videos, you've also done animation and short
Yeah.
films. Is there one that you love to do more than the other, or is it pretty equal?
I would say that directing in general is my favorite thing. I've just always loved it. I started doing like little short film type things with my friends when I was in elementary school, and I kind of never stopped because it was very much just a hobby. At that point in elementary school, I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, this is so fun making stories like on video and playing with special effects and all sorts of things. And then once I learned that that was an actual job that people have, I was kind of mind blown. I was like, what? People can get paid for this? And since then, like that's the only thing that I was like, yes, like I know that I would be perfectly happy doing that for the rest of my life. And I'm actually very ADHD, and I think that describes the way that I approach my career in a certain sense, as far as like I love directing, and that's always the thing that I'm chasing. I'm always setting up opportunities for myself to direct because I know that that's like what I love most.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that I love other things less, I guess. Like I love the difference of it all. I love doing something different every day, waking up and having something new on my plate. And I think also just like working with musicians has a lot of that, because even if I am doing more or less of the same job, I'm working on a different project every week.
Hmm.
And that's really beneficial to me because I definitely can kind of get into a funk if I'm, working on one thing for too long that ends up feeling like it's dragging me down. So I like having the ability to, um, be on set one day and then go curl up in my room and animate all day the next. It's a great kind of back and forth for me. But yeah, directing is definitely where it's at for me. I describe it as a controlled adrenaline rush. That's kind of what I'm chasing.
That's good. I like that.
Um, because I love the pre-production. I love the act of producing, kind of, in the act of putting everything together, and putting, like, it's almost like a puzzle. You're trying to figure out all the pieces and where they go ahead of time, and what the set's going to look like and how the actors are going to perform, and how like every single different piece that goes into a live action production is going to fit together. But then once you get there on the day, like, you've put together the puzzle as much as you can, but mm, you know any amount of preparation is going to make the production run a lot smoother, and it's going to allow for more experimentation and allow for you to have fun on the set. And that's one of my main things for me. Like, I've always loved being on set so much that I want other people to feel the same way when they're on my sets. I never want my sets to be, anxiety inducing and stressful, because even though there is a lot of money and time and all sorts of different components going into it,
Hmm.
because I love it so much, I want everyone else to experience that same like joy and that same um really positive adrenaline, I guess, of being on set. And that's only possible when you have the controlled side of it, when you have um all of the preparation going in.
I totally agree with that because I usually like pre-production. So I like the whole organized chaos of it all. Like it seems so chaotic
Yes.
when I explain to people what I have to do, figuring out
Yes.
budgets and stuff, but
Hmm.
I do enjoy it. But how do you balance working for another company and then also doing your own projects on the side? Is that ever a lot?
Yes, definitely. It's a hard balance. I would say that that's, especially being in school too. I have 1 year left of school, and it's definitely a lot. I would say that's been one of the biggest things for me this year, is discovering the balance of it all, and discovering when it is important to say no to projects and when it's important to create time for myself. And um, it's it's interesting because like all of my hobbies at this point have kind of become work. And so that's great and that's amazing. But I also have had to be really intentional about reserving certain hobbies in certain spaces for myself. Because when you are working for so many different people, it's hard to maintain that always. And I find that when I do have like a greater attachment to my own ideas, and when I am able to give myself space to think, like sometimes that happens, like you run out of space to think for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
um that's when I come up with my best ideas, and that's when my projects are the best they can be, because when I do spread myself too thin, everything's going to suffer. Not just like my own personal mental health, but all the projects that I'm working on are going to suffer because I don't have the mental energy to, really devote myself to them anymore. So yeah, the balance is hard, but it's definitely worth it in my opinion. It's just something that you have to learn. It's a skill like anything else, and in my opinion, it's one of the more important skills of directing and of freelancing and of being a creative in general, I think, and working, supporting yourself in a creative field. Because it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, I have to make enough money to buy groceries, but it's balancing that with finding the projects that I love. But yeah, working for Universal has been really great because I do have a really wonderful relationship with my boss and with my team. And so they're very understanding of, when I need to say no to a project for whatever reason. Um, so yeah, it's worked out that it's very project based at UMG, because some weeks I'll be working a ton for them, and then the next week I might not be doing any projects for them if we don't have, any requests that kind of fit my skill set. Um, and then yeah, the freelance all kind of goes in between. But I'm yearning for the day when I make enough money to have an assistant, because like that is the ultimate, like scheduling is really hard, managing finances is really hard, especially as a young freelancer. So just kind of learning the ropes of how to balance all of that has been interesting, but worth it, in my opinion. Very, very worth it.
I get that. So I saw one of your TikToks. It's like an older one, and I think it's like the inner workings of an artist. I just have one question. Do you ever feel like a sellout because you're working for another company and you're helping them produce content?
um no. I I think that as a young person, and just as a creative in general, like it's very unrealistic to say, oh, I'm gonna go after a career in the arts
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not gonna work for other people's visions. Like that's just not gonna happen, because no matter what kind of art you're doing, unless you're like, I guess the only possible way that I can imagine an artist actually being able to work only for themselves and support themselves, um, is if you're a visual artist and you're able to create a following for your visual art, where you can simply do like gallery shows and sell your work, and you're making enough money off of that to actually pay your rent. That is the only situation where I can actually see something like that working out. If you're doing video, or if you're doing any other kind of like creative work, um, you're going to be working for other people. It's very unrealistic to not be working for other people. And so I think if you're if you want to go into an industry like that, you have to keep that in mind ahead of time, and you have to say, am I going to be happy, you know, achieving other people's visions? And for me, that's one of my favorite parts, because it's like I was talking about, working with Eliza on her
Mm-hmm.
music video. It's magical to be able to have a relationship with a musician, and be able to work together and collaborate to achieve whatever vision they had for their song visually, and like come to that realization of what that will look like together. That's a really magical experience. And I don't know. Yeah, it's like I love to do my own work. I love to produce my own short films and produce my own documentary films that are about topics that I'm really passionate about. But I couldn't do those things if I weren't able to pay my rent, and but through other projects, like working for musicians and working for big brands. As far as I know, the TikTok you're talking about, and it's a weird situation because it is like we live in the world that we live in. Like you can't blame a consumer
Mm-hmm.
for existing within the society that is built. It is not built for them. We can try to not use Amazon and try to shop sustainably and all these things, but at the end of the day, our individual impact is not going to make nearly as much of a difference as a restructuring of the
Mm-hmm.
corporate world. And I think that it's really unfair when people put that responsibility on the individual, because everybody's just trying their best. Everybody's waking up this day in this world, like trying to do their best. And yeah, we're not the ones destroying the world. Like corporations are the ones destroying the world. And so at the end of the day, how I see it is I'm like, yes, one day, once I've made it kind of in whatever space I'm trying to make it in, and I have access to resources that allow me to produce narratives and stories that I want to tell, I will be telling stories that are, anti-corporate and that are just trying to instill values that I believe in the world, because I think that narratives and visual narratives are one of the most powerful ways to do that at this point. I think that, making change through art and telling your stories through art is one of the only and best ways that we can actually break through to people and maybe hopefully create real change.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to be able to do that if you don't have the resources, and you can't pay your rent and buy your groceries and do all the everyday things that you have to do to survive as a person in this society. And so, you know,
I
as
guess.
an artist, you're not only going to, it's very unrealistic to think that you're only going to be able to create these, um, you know, very like value driven narratives, because nobody's going to pay you for that when you're starting out. You got to find that money elsewhere. And you got to support yourself while you're building your portfolio, and support yourself so that you can get to the point where you can actually tell those stories. Yeah, that was kind of like a very circular answer, but
No, it was good. It was basically just kind of fight capitalism with, I guess, more capitalism.
oh God, I
It's
know. I'm
fine.
like, I hate that. But
There's nothing you can really
yeah,
do.
if you want to be an artist as a career,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to be a career artist. Like that's just kind of how it is. I don't know. Like, yeah, you can try to, work with, and within that, when I am working with musicians, I always try to hire people whose voices I believe in and who are typically more marginalized in those spaces. So like I keep keeping back to Eliza's music video. On that music video, it was one of the first music videos I worked on where we had an all-female and non-binary crew, and I try to do that always now, or at least
Mm-hmm.
as much as I can. I definitely have some male collaborators who I love and who are very talented with. I mean, who are very talented and who I still work with. But as much as I possibly can, I am trying to bring in voices that I think are going to change the world, and that I think, if given the opportunity to show their visions and show their strengths, are going to create a better media landscape than we have right now. And because yeah, it's like we have to tear down the systems but there's no way we're going to do that at this point. Like we're all so little at this point. We're so young. We're just starting out. Like I don't know. We need to buy our groceries. Like I don't know what there is more than that, but like yeah. So I guess if I can, you know, flip that and be working for musicians who may be like the bigger man, but who also might be musicians who have a really amazing voice. And I can get people paid who I believe in by bringing them onto sets. That's, I guess, the best way that I can see it going.
Yeah, you're taking the right approach. I feel like you're doing all the right things because, like you said, it's already this huge construct. You can't tear it down. At this point, we have to kind of sort of just like be the change we want to see in the world and
Right.
start working
And
towards
I
that
think we can tear it down,
with time.
hopefully, yes, once we have the ability to tear it down. But at this point, we don't have that power. The people in power are the people in power. And so I don't know. So complicated. It really does come back to the TikTok, because the TikTok is me sitting there like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? It really is me going through all these exact thoughts that we're talking about right now every day. This is what I go through every day, and I'm thinking about it constantly. And I'm always trying to figure out what the next best step is, to form a better life. And I think that's also comes back to the balance thing I was talking about. I think as a creative, as a working creative professional, it is so important to be aware of your mental health and to be aware of how you're treating yourself and how you're treating your body and how you're treating all of the people that you're working with, because that is also a place of revolution. If you can just counter the narrative that like we need, like the hustle culture narrative that we need to be constantly dying over our work and like just killing ourselves with stress over our work. It's just not true. It's fake. It's, if you can find a way to create really amazing work and create a really amazing portfolio without killing your soul in the process, I think that is just as revolutionary as anything else.
I agree with that, honestly. Wow.
I hope I answered your question.
You
I know
did. You're
that
like
was a
really
lot of
well
words.
spoken. That was really
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
I guess switching over to something a little less harsh and I guess political. Let's talk about your most recent short film. Is it Cherry
Yes.
Bomb?
Yes.
So first of all, congrats, because it looks
Thank
amazing.
you.
I haven't had
Thank
time to
you.
fully sit down and watch it quite yet, and I will this weekend. However, I've seen a couple of your videos on TikTok as well of just like the collaboration for musicians you were looking for to get music for it. And then
Yeah.
you also did collabs with certain like artists for merch.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredibly like genius. What made you think of
Yeah.
that?
I mean, so I guess I'll start with the app, TikTok, the app. I used to be such a big TikTok hater. Before
Really?
quarantine, I was a huge TikTok hater. I was like, oh, like music, post musically, like what is this? Like, what are these kids these days doing? I do feel like I'm on like not the older side of it necessarily, but like the mid older side, because I'm 21. So it's like I'm in the 20s range, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
more than the teens range of TikTok users. And so that might have been why I was such a hater at the beginning. But when quarantine started, I downloaded the app and I was really mind blown by the community that I found on there. I have never seen a platform where people can connect on such an intimate level about all sorts of topics, whether that's sharing their music or sharing their art or talking about their gender identity and sexuality. I think that for so many reasons, it's just like I really exist, I guess, on TikTok on like the arts and film side, and then on the queer side, and both of those communities, I just I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a platform that allows people to meet other people who are interested in the same ideas as them and talk about ideas that interest them in such an open way. And obviously, the app itself has a lot of issues, and there's a lot of shadow banning going on, and a lot of suppression of marginalized voices through the app itself. But it's almost even more powerful, I think, that we're still able to find that community in the face of all of that, suppression. And so I guess I was inspired by that more than anything. I posted a short like trailer, kind of the first like 15 seconds of Cherry Bomb
Mm-hmm.
on TikTok in September. And that was the first time where that really blew up. And I was like, holy shit, like this, like that literally, that one TikTok changed my life. Like it gave Cherry Bomb an audience in a way that I never would have expected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that really inspired me as far as like, okay, well, if it can give Cherry Bomb an audience, and if Cherry Bomb is now impacting all of these people in this really intimate way, what else can it do? And I think that social media in general, one of the places that I see it lacking the most is in, I guess, a more organized way to connect professionally. Because what I see as TikTok's biggest strength, as far as like meeting other people to work with and meeting other people who have similar values to work with. Like I said, Eliza saw my TikTok, and that's why she DM'd me. It's so many musicians and collaborators I've met through the app. And so yeah, that's what I see as its biggest strength. But it's still lacking in this like organized way to do that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always thought about, trying to create maybe a database or something where young artists can find other collaborators in their area, because I get so many DMs constantly on Instagram that are like, hi, I'm a lighting person, or I'm an actor, I'm a musician, or I'm a director, whatever they are, in some state in the United States or in a different country. And they're asking to work with me. And sometimes I have the ability to work with them and I'm able to, create something from that. But sometimes for whatever reason, either I'm not looking for someone with their skills, or I'm, because of where they're located, I can't work with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish that there were a social platform that allowed those people to find each other more easily. Because something that I do try to do is, if a musician comes to me and they're like, hi, I'm looking for an editor, an animator for this video, and I don't have the capacity to take that on, I don't have the time or the energy to take that on, I will recommend other people who have also DM'd me. But if there were like a platform where they could find each other without me being the middleman, that would be ideal. Because like I was saying before, if we can all just get each other paid, like if we can all just pay each other's rent and pay each other's for each other's groceries by hiring each other,
No, I get that, because all we have right now is
without,
like Facebook groups. That's all that you can find
exactly,
other
yeah,
work on.
Facebook groups, and there's like, you know, TikTok, and then there's like LinkedIn, like none of them really kind of do exactly what we want. They're all like close, but not quite what we need. And so this is a long-winded answer of saying that anytime I do have the opportunity to work with other young artists and business people and musicians and whoever, I will take that opportunity. So because I'd much rather work with people like that than go through, a corporation, not only because I want to support them, but also just because the work ends up being so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, people on an individual level like that care so much more. When you're working through a corporation, like they don't care about you, they care about whatever their profit margins are. And so, for example, when I'm, trying to find musicians to feature in my short film, it really is just that, like that one was even just like more selfishly, it was like, I don't know how else I'm going to find musicians, like how I'm just going to post and hope that people reply. And I'm able to make some really great connections that way. But with the merch stuff, especially, I was like, okay, I want to make merch. I don't want to go through like Redbubble because their quality is not going to be as good. And they're going to take a huge amount of the profits. And, why am I giving money to a corporation if I could be supporting all of these great small businesses that I see on TikTok? And so I was able to find a few different people who had like very small businesses, like an embroidery company and a polymer clay earring company and like a beaded jewelry company. And I say company, but these are all actually just young women, really, between the ages of like 17 and 21, who are creating beautiful art from their homes. And so I was able to, give them some money and give them some promotion, and also have way better quality products that I could sell to, my fans, by partnering with them rather than anyone else.
That's so cool because now everybody's also invested in it because they helped make merch for this film and now
Right.
their song is in the film. So everybody's like super connected to this now. I think that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Like I was saying earlier, like, I love working on set. The community aspect of working on set and the collaboration aspect is really my favorite thing. And so the more I can find spaces to bring in collaboration and to, build a community, I'm going to take every opportunity to do that I can get.
Just so cool. I'm so like inspired by you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So as a young person who like you're in the industry and you've been working for, I guess, a couple years now,
Yeah.
do you ever worry about getting exploited or not paid enough for your work just because you are so young?
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely happens. That's another thing that's a hard balance. I would say the biggest way to have that not happen is by comparing wages with your fellow peers. So like, I've done some big client work recently, and I kind of, especially when you're up and coming, it's really, really easy to exploit yourself almost. Like, because a lot of times people won't give you, I would say the vast majority of times when I'm working professionally on like a gig kind of basis, people won't give you a quote. They won't say, this is how much I have. They'll say, what is your rate? How much do you want? And it's really easy when you haven't done a lot of work to way underquote because, the industry standards are so much higher. And if you feel like you're not at that level, then you're going to quote way less than you actually deserve, and you probably are on that level. You're probably giving them just as good of a service as anyone else could.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only way that I've found to really know what your value is by talking to other people who are doing similar work, about what they're getting paid. And it is kind of scary, I guess, but I've never found anyone like it's, I feel like it's always been a very taboo subject to do that, but it's so important. And I've never had anyone, like I've never asked anyone, one of my peers, what they're getting paid and had them be weird about it, honestly, because they understand why you're doing that, And so like for a lot of these bigger companies that I've gotten work through recently, I've been very lucky because often I'll have another friend who's working on something for the same company or working on something that's of similar caliber. And so I can ask them, well, what are you getting paid? Well, what did you get asked for? And usually it's way higher than I would have, said myself if I hadn't asked. So that's my biggest advice.
That's actually really good advice because I know starting out, a lot of people offer their services for free because
Yeah.
they don't have like a reel or any portfolio set up, which I guess
Yeah.
can be a good thing, but I don't know.
Right. I would say it's a big balance of what you're going to get out of it. I'm really lucky that now I do have enough work, and specifically like animation work, um, where I can be like, okay, well, this animation job, I got enough from that this month that if this, really small artist reaches out to me and wants to shoot together, but they don't have the budget to pay me what I know I'm worth, I
Mm-hmm.
could still take that on if the reward from that, whatever product I'm going to get out of that, that I can then put on my portfolio and the connections I can make from that. If I decide that that's worth it, then I can still take it. But that's a very different situation from being forced to accept work for free. And it is really hard starting out. I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky that I have the job at Universal because it is a I am employed by them.
Mm-hmm.
I get a standard rate from them, and I was able to build my portfolio through that work. And so then once I go to freelance work, I'm able to use that as like, I've done these things, therefore this is what my rate is. But yeah, it can definitely be really, really hard starting out. But I would say my biggest advice is definitely to talk to other people about what they're getting paid.
I think that's really good advice. Anyway, I usually try to end my interviews with a more positive question, something kind of lighthearted, just to kind of keep things nice at the end. So my question for you is, what are some movies that you think were overhyped or just like not worth all the hype? Do you have any of those?
Interesting. Just like any movie that I feel like was not worth the hype. I
Like
mean,
everyone loves it and you're just like, it was okay.
yeah, I don't know. I think that everyone has a lot to do with who you're talking to, because
True.
the main movie that pops into my head when you say that is something that I know a lot of other people do hate, but also a lot of other people love, which is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Um, I cannot stand that movie. I watched it once and hated it. And then everyone was like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, everyone meaning like specifically a lot of film bros that I
Mhm.
know. They're like, oh, no, 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 you have to watch it again. Then you'll understand it more. And like, you'll get what the real meaning of it is. And like, you'll be able to enjoy it more the second time. Watch it the second time. Hated it even more.
Gee.
We'll never be watching it again. But I just, oh man, I'm like the misogyny. Like, come on, Quentin, what are you doing? Yeah, I don't know. I like movies that um display that tell the stories of people who I am interested in,
Hmm.
whether those are people who are similar to me or people who I think have really captivating stories. And I was not interested in the stories of anyone in that movie, I guess, is really at the end of the day. Um, I came away so disappointed that it wasn't about the story of the Manson girls. I was like, I wanted to know what they were villainized. Why were they so villainized? Like, I wanted to know what was going through their heads and why they were
Hmm.
doing the things they were doing. Because that's why I was like, oh, it's a story about the Manson murders. Like, I want to know all about the Manson girls and like what they were thinking and what their motivations were. And instead, it was like, literally their only screen time was like when they were being totally villainized and they had no perspective, like point of view in it. So that was disappointing for me.
It's okay. It happens. It's like Scott Pilgrim. I watched it for the first time
Yeah.
a year ago and I was like, okay, this is cool. I understand why everybody likes it. Would I rate it the best movie in the entire world? No.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's funny. Scott Pilgrim, I think. I guess it depends on when you watch movies, because I'm like Scott Pilgrim, I do have a softer place in my heart because I watched it so young.
Hmm.
And so I think I was less focused than I am now about um I guess like the value of the narrative, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
like the way that it's shot is super cool and I like the editing behind
right,
it. But then when you focus on the
right.
story, you're like, oh, this sucks.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yes,
shoot.
yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's funny. Do you have a favorite movie? I know that's a,
I hate that question because it
I
always
know.
changes. Like someone recently asked me that question and I was like, I have three that are in the running for my top spot of
I
favorite.
always have different ones, but that's why I was curious. It's kind of funny. I hate that question too.
But like right now, top running is like The Parent Trap, which is like the remake, not the
Yes.
original, just the remake. Um,
Yes.
what else
That's
did I
so funny.
Last
I
Black
love
Man in San
that.
Francisco. That's a really good one.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes,
And
yes.
then Wonder Woman.
Beautiful. I love those answers. Amazing.
Yours?
Um, Man, I feel like I haven't even been watching movies recently. Um, the my one of my favorite movies of all time is Born in Flames, which is a very, very independent, experimental, I guess, movie from the 80s about a revolutionary group of women who fuck shit up. It's a
Nice.
great watch if you have never seen it. It is like so low budget, like shot over like 5 years, because they, were just like shooting whenever they could. But it's a huge inspiration to me, I think. And then, oh man, aside from that, what have I watched recently? I loved Minari. I love Parasite. I love man, I'm like, why can I not even remember like my main ones? I love American Honey. I love Andrea Arnold. She does really amazing work. I love how she works with non-actors usually. She'll just find people who really embody her characters and then shoot with them. Because I feel like that's really
It's fun. I've done
genuine
it.
and very vulnerable. Yeah. Yeah.
Really good pick.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you so much for taking the time to
Of course.
on this
Yeah.
episode. I feel like you're just so busy.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I try to, balance. I think that's important. I'm busy, but with a lot of really, really wonderful things. So,
As long as
I
you're having
guess
fun.
that is my closing advice is to not just be busy with work. Be busy with, the things that you love and the work that you love, but also be busy with your friends and be busy with taking time for a good book and be busy with, you know, whatever makes you happy. It's make the time for those things because those are just as important.
That's solid advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Definitely.
having me. This has been so great.
I enjoyed it as well. Thank you. Definitely stay in touch with me. I believe
Yes, yes, I
in the
will.
other projects you put out.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yes, you too. Have a great day. So
Bye.
great talking to you. Bye.